Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name's Greg Mader. I'm with Open Source Integrators. And we're going to talk a little bit about assets. And I was asked, a few more people have come in. So same question. Anybody here working with fixed assets, mobile assets, depreciation? Okay, there I see it. Oh, okay. So it's an interesting topic, and it's an important part of financial accounting as you're trying to understand how to set up your Odoo system to run your business correctly. A little bit about us. We're an Odoo Gold partner. We've been a Gold partner since our first year. In 2013, I think we got to be a Gold partner. We've worked with utility and energy companies and other projects with buildings, machine tools, and robots, and other sorts of utility things that would involve fixed assets and mobile assets. So Odoo provides a really important platform that can be used for sophisticated asset management. One thing that I think is noticeable here immediately is that the complete system here that you get with Odoo for maintenance, equipment management, accounting, all of these things come together to make Odoo a good platform for asset management. So where does, I mentioned this at the beginning, but where does asset management typically end up in a business? It's typically some part of financial accounting. So your financial accounting team generally will have some sort of a group of people that will specialize in this. Maybe it's, if you're a small business, it might not be a full-time job. Bigger businesses, it definitely is. At big utility companies or energy companies, there's full-time asset management people that are calculating service life and value calculations of net present value all the time. Typically, you would set this up as, in Odoo language, as a journal within your general ledger. So you'd set up an assets journal, and that would be the place you'd have this detailed information about any transactions. Okay. Typical patterns of how this is used. And this is where I will like a show of hands, and we'll talk about as best we can with the team we have. Okay, true fixed assets, show of hands. Okay, plant management or plant maintenance, so maintaining like buildings and grounds or a facility, yes, okay. Equipment management, yes, lots of equipment management, okay. Any fleet management, yes, okay. You do everything.
My company is a company of solution.
Okay.
And also patents and trademarks.
That is an excellent point, because those are very much an asset that you can put on your balance sheet and manage over the long term. With the depreciation lifestyle, knowing that your patent and trade, well, patents at least, depending on the country, expire at different years. So that's an excellent point. Cool. Okay. So let's talk about the asset lifecycle in Odoo. There's a certain sequence here that and I'll give you some demos of screens as well here so you can kind of see how this would go. But there's a certain amount of configuration that needs to be done in accounting. Upon procurement, there's a few settings that need to be made as well for Odoo to realize that this is an asset, not inventory. Same thing with receiving. You're receiving something into your assets, and it's a different part of your balance sheet than it will be if it's inventory. Finally, installation, maintenance, and end of life and scrapping as well. So I'm going to give a really simple example here. With the setup you have to do in accounting is to basically set up your asset types, use the asset module, and set your balance sheet accounts to have asset accounts for the different, and you may have multiple types of asset accounts in your balance sheet too. plant versus equipment versus buildings or whatever it might be. One of the things you set here too is your computation method. I won't speak for other countries, but in the United States, the digressive method doesn't work with what we consider to be generally accepted accounting principles. The linear method works fine, but this is an area where we've had some consternation and we've had to make some adjustments to understand if it's not linear or straight line depreciation using a different tools that we've made to manage that. So now we've got that asset inventory or asset class set up in Odoo, and now we're at a point where we can actually think about the products that we're going to put into the that we're going to acquire as assets here. So the thing that's interesting is Odoo makes this very simple. It's just another kind of a product. So you just set up a product. You would note that it's an asset type, and you would manage your expenses. And if you have like a fixed asset account for your expenses as well, you'd want to consider that. Now we have, okay, so everybody here I think is, yes sir?
On the last 3 unit packets that can be purchased?
Yes, there is the click box there of, yeah, you want to make it purchasable too. And this is before you purchase your tractor or solar panels or whatever that asset is going to be. Yes, sir. Okay. So for purchase assets, now it's pretty simple. You have a product, you probably have some basic pricing, you just purchase it. And it's a simple thing with Odoo. Purchase management works well right out of the box. When you receive the asset, this is the interesting thing, is that Odoo now knows that this has this product has been purchased, it's been received, and that can start to trigger some things in the management of this product at this point. It will show up in your balance sheet at this point, even though it's not installed yet. So switching to maintenance, this is where we can at the same time as you acquire it, you will want to have your maintenance set up for it. Understanding not every asset has maintenance schedules, but let's pick common ones like, again, plant maintenance. If you have mobile assets like vehicles, trucks, this would be the opportunity to establish the maintenance schedule for that as part of that asset here too. One thing that, a point I do need to make, fixed assets are not automatically tied to locations. And that's an area where, again, there's some adjustments that can be made to make that work better. Okay, so maintenance schedule, we talked about this. Some special, so it's that simple though to get an asset up and going. It doesn't, again, not knowing where everybody's skill level was or experience level, I wanted to keep it pretty simple. But there are some special situations here that require some customization. Lease or net present value calculations. If you're trying to figure out what's my value of this item that I have under a lease, that's something that's going to be a special consideration that you're going to have to do. What's the payout? Because there may be like payout penalties or things like that that are part of it. Insurance valuations are generally calculated differently from net present value as well. Yes, you.
How many valuations can you carry at a single time?
With a little bit of customization, as much as you need.
Okay, without any customization, is there only a single NPV?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up.
You know, a common thing is, of course, you depreciate it for your accountant, but you may have a tax value where you can depreciate it rapidly and things like that. Yes,
and that's exactly where you may need to make some of these adjustments to be able to capture those sort of special situations. Insurance, tax, similarly, you know, what's the residual value? the net present value and the residual value are, you know, it's going to be whatever it is, right? So.
And probably even current market.
Very, very true. Yeah. Okay. So there are some gaps here that can be addressed through customization, and that's something we've done regularly with our customers. Some considerations about Odoo and fixed assets in general, and this, you know, I don't want to call them limitations, but let's just call them considerations here. The only linear depreciation really makes sense in the Anglo-Saxon accounting world. The digressive, like I said, does not compute for US accounting teams here. The link between received assets and maintenance tasks has to be created manually. Even though we've already said this received asset is an asset, it doesn't kick off the maintenance schedule automatically. There's still a step that needs to be done there. Mention this briefly, fixed assets are not tied to an existing location. That's again like a little bit of work to make that happen, but that if you have multiple locations and multiple sites, that's going to be absolutely necessary. And lastly, there's no automatic management of scrapping. That's still something you have to handle manually too. And I'm actually okay with that, because having a person in the loop to say, okay, we're actually manually taking this out of our balance sheet, I think that's something a person should be doing. So there are softwares out there that just kind of automatically do it, and I think that's a dangerous task. I'd like to talk a little bit briefly about field services or mobile assets here too. And I won't spend a lot of time on this, but this is an area we've been doing some work on for a few customers, where we're actually, the company has a lot of trucks on the road, and they're doing some very interesting stuff with not just the trucks, but the inventory on the trucks. So we've set up each truck to be its own warehouse location, issue to the truck, things like that. But the assets themselves, we end up with this key thing of trying to optimize the value of those assets and get the most out of it. So what we found is that there's kind of a planning cycle for mobile assets that is worth describing here. Weeks in advance, you can kind of schedule like jobs or deliveries or things like that you kind of know are going to happen. So with that, it may be like a large apartment structure is going to be built or things like that. So you have some general sense of it. But as you get closer to it, there's a need for some tactical planning within the day or two of what assets are going to be co-located. Does that change? Are we adding value? Are we changing anything in our balance sheet with that? And finally, some sense of with the mobile assets actually being put on site, which one is actually going to be dispatched for it perhaps on that day. This comes up a lot with the company we're working with. It's a construction company, and it has expensive equipment that we're trying to manage the value of that equipment at each job site. And lastly, some sort of analysis of what did it cost? Were our projections right? Do we need to make any modifications? But this gets to the whole world of dispatching and routing too, and trying to really create the maximum efficiency we can for these mobile assets and keeping the costs as minimized as we can. If this was a different sort of company, not a construction company, we might not be trying to optimize for cost. We would probably be trying to optimize for customer satisfaction or delivery windows or things like that. But for construction equipment, it's not a big deal if the dump truck is 25 minutes late. No one's going to be too mad about that. So with that, questions, comments? Okay. It's Friday after break, so everybody's... No questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Are there customized views for like just an asset register, or are you just relying on the standard product?
You can, I think I know what you're talking about, and we actually do that where we'll create like a tag for, that makes it easier to find it in that product list and stuff, so everything's kind of in its own.
But even then, you'd probably want a customized view. You
Yes.
Want to see your residual values.
Yes.
And whatever your NPV. You know, it'd be just really great if you go down and then you can sort and say, give me all my. And as I said, I'm a little bit more interested because of trademarks and patents. And the client I've got has a lot of patents.
Okay.
It's a significant value part of their business is the patents they maintain, and which of their sub-entities owns which of their patents. And it's not so much about depreciations and that, but you know, just really knowing
Sure.
what their asset
Well,
register currently holds.
Yeah. What you're describing is some really cool, awesome reporting around that part of your balance sheet.
Reporting, it just needs to be a list of you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but it's a list of you that they don't want to go into their product list and say, show me all my patents. And
Yep.
just go to my asset.
Yeah, well, it can be, if I was doing that right now, exactly the way you're describing, it would just be a save search filter.
Yeah.
And then,
Add a few extra columns.
exactly. So,
Which is why I thought it would have it, because I thought it's a simple extension of
Sure.
it. But,
yeah, no, that's a few minutes of work,
Yeah.
but nothing too hard.
yeah. Okay, cheers.
Regarding the fleet management, for example, is your client using a fleet management in Odoo?
Ask me in about a month.
No, because when I said that we do fleet management, we have a module for transport and logistics, and we have a module for fleet management.
Yes.
That we have to improve it to. So I like to see the thing because I had a different approach to the same issue. Because in that case, for example, are you using the fleet as a product?
Yes. We are not using the fleet as a product.
Okay, yeah. Because what I did is for every fleet, I can specify an account. Actually, when I create a new fleet, I create a new account in the shop account.
Got it.
Okay, and that is the account that is connected to the fixed assets, for example.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why for me it also was interesting, and because also now, for example, I saw how you did for the equipment, because we have a client that they are IT client, company, and they have a lot of equipment. And we had this issue long time ago because they were trying to organize the store, the warehouse. And as I see now, I learned another way of view, and I think it's interesting because we had the same issue when we were trying to manage their equipment and as an asset management. Because they had some product that they don't really consider as a stock, but neither as an asset.
Yes.
Because it's there just for replacement for the other clients.
Yep.
So, but they not sell it. See?
Yep. That's very much in line with this.
What you have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
How do you deal with the non-depreciable assets like the land? There's no option in Odoo to not depreciate these assets.
Ooh, interesting. I haven't. No, I haven't been asked that question, but I can tell you how I would do it. If I was using the depreciation tool, I'd just set it for 0, and then
Doesn't work.
doesn't work. You've tried that.
No.
Okay, interesting. I don't know. I'm going to have to go look at that and find out. I'll give you my card, and I'd love to stay in touch with you guys. So.
Another question: is it possible to buy assets and store them for a while? Like I had a case for a bank that is it's opening branches, so they bought a lot of assets and still not using them. So is there a way to treat them as inventory, but not inventory?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and we've what we've found that we're doing is we'll still receive it as an asset, but we'll reset the depreciation table when it actually goes into service. And the first part well, that's what we're doing. Yeah, we're throwing out stuff prior to when it's put in service. So that's, there's some things that you put into stock and yeah, they're going to depreciate even then, but I think I know I think we had the same situation a couple of weeks ago when we were just talking about it. And it's not, there's a couple of extra steps, it's a little tricky to because yes, if you stop a plan and restart it, it doesn't know what to do. It gets lost.
Sorry, another question.
Please, please.
When I buy an asset with a quantity more than one,
Yes.
which creates just one asset, how can I deal with this?
You shouldn't evidence like that. I think that quantity should always be one.
Yeah.
So if I bought 100 computers, I have to insert
Yes, but
100.
Well,
for example,
you-
if you buy an extra memory for one of them, then the value is changed for one of them and 99 are still...
But
No, I think when you enter an invoice with a quantity of 10, there should be 10 assets created. Not one.
so where have you guys been all my life? I mean, this is the conversation I've wanted to have.
For instance, we have a big module, we do the same. Because, for example, when you go to, we have a client that is a telecommunication company. If the client buy voice services, he buy 4 voice services. But in the booking contract, he creates 4 lines.
So I'm more on their side on here, and here's why, is because typically things like a computer, let's use that as an example, I'm going to receive them by serial number, and that's where I want to make sure that I can track each serial numbered item correctly. In case one does get broken and I throw it away, I don't want to have a depreciation for 1,000 computers. I want to have a depreciation for 1,001 eaches, and if when one breaks or whatever, I can take it out of service and get rid of it.
So I just enter them one by one?
No.
There is a module in Odoo called serial forward, separate for you format line.
So
You can use
Yeah, use.
So make it is automatic
yeah.
for you. You have to customize or just find a model made from someone.
So we can scan assets, apply barcoding.
Yes.
You have to actually.
You really should.
Everything that is an asset, it has to be done in this way.
It doesn't, to be fair, it doesn't have to be barcoded. Barcoding a tractor doesn't make sense. But there is a serial number on that tractor, and we'll want to record that when you receive that tractor. So, okay. What else, guys? Okay. Again, okay. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.